Wu Xia. Wu Xia is a type of Chinese martial arts fantasy that has been popular in Chinese cinema since the 1950s. Wu Xia films generally take place in ancient or pre-modern China and focus on heroes from the lower classes of society that are imbued with immense martial arts skills and fantastical or magical elements such as the ability to fly. The words Wu Xia can literally be translated to military hero, and today I want to discuss the most famous Wu Xia film in the Western world, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
So welcome to the first episode of English Not Permitted, the only channel on YouTube dedicated to foreign language film and TV shows. So today we're talking about Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Released in the year 2000, Crouching Tiger was a massive success upon its release, becoming the first foreign language film to gross over $100 million in the US, as well as winning the award for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars, and it even got nominated for Best Picture. The film was a truly international effort, made between US and Chinese film companies, with a Taiwanese director in Ang Lee, and an international cast with Michelle Yeoh hailing from Malaysia and Chow Yun-fat hailing from Hong Kong. And I think this international crew really helped to make the best film possible, because you got Western style storytelling, which at the time meant the best special effects, the best directors and the best actors, mixed with Chinese elements of Wu Xia, and all this combines together to create an absolutely badass film. Although some of this mixing may have led to some negative reviews in China, because it was noticeable to Chinese audiences that the main cast didn't speak with traditional Chinese accent. It's also a real fucking shame that we're not going to see this kind of cooperation in the future, or highly unlikely to, because of the Cold War 2.0 that's going on right now between US and China. So I think it's going to be a long time before we see this kind of cooperation to make such a badass film between Chinese and US film companies anytime in the future. Unless, of course, you count Mulan. The film is set during the Qing dynasty, which was the last dynasty to rule China, and the film takes place sometime around the 1800s. Now, the setting of the film is one of the aspects that I love the most. I lived in China for 4 years, and China doesn't look like this anymore. But I think this film does an excellent job of recreating the China of the past. And because it was actually filmed in China, you get some really, really beautiful filming locations, with some scenes taking place in the Gobi Desert, in Urumqi in Xinjiang province, somewhere you're definitely never going to be able to go in the future, and the Uniwue bamboo forest. And they even created lifelike sets of the Forbidden City in Beijing. One of the things I also liked was the attention to detail. For example, during the Qing dynasty, a lot of people wore shaved head with a long ponytail, which is traditionally what people in the Qing dynasty used to wear. All this attention to detail and the beautiful set make this a really, really beautiful film to watch. Now let's talk about the plot. So the plot revolves around Li Mubai, who is a renowned swordsman, but at the beginning of the film he decides he's ready to retire and give up his 400-year-old sword, called Green Destiny. However, as he's about to give up the sword is stolen by a mysterious warrior. At the same time, Li Mubai is trying to avenge his master's death at the hands of the evil witch Jade Fox. Sounds pretty exciting, right? Well, it is. However, I did find the plot to be one of the areas that I found most difficult to follow. Crouching Tiger is actually adapted from the 4th book in a 5-part series. There are a whole 3 books worth of story that weren't adapted before this. And honestly, I found it a little tricky to follow who was who and what the characters' motivations were. However, this didn't really spoil the film for me, and especially didn't spoil any of the amazing action sequences in the film. On repeat viewings, once you know who the characters are and what their motivations are, this film might be even more enjoyable to watch. Now, on to what makes this film so great, the badass fight scenes. Oh my god, these fight scenes are so good. One thing I think helped the film was that Ang Lee, the director, decided to use limited CGI, and he relied on the use of wires for some of the flying scenes. And I think the early 2000s were like a really special period. Because the CGI wasn't that good, they had to do everything themselves. And I think it's made films at the time look a lot better than what came after them for the next 10, maybe even 15 years. If you look at Lord of the Rings, for example, because they had to rely on makeup and doing the action themselves, it looks so much better than it would have done 10 years after the fact. And Crouching Tiger is no different. The actors had to do all the stunts themselves. They didn't rely on CGI to do all the flying scenes, which would have made it look pretty janky and much less beautiful to look at. Ang Lee did have a little help though from the team behind The Matrix, who he recruited. You can see here from the making of documentary that all the actors were doing most of their own stunts. And I think this is quite impressive because actually the actors don't have a background in real martial arts. And I think a special shout out deserves to go to Chung Pei Pei, who plays Jade Fox, because she's kind of an OG of the wuxia genre. She first started in the wuxia genre in 1966 in a film called Come Drink With Me, which you can see here. So she's been doing it for a long, long time. Although I think the most famous scene from this film is one of the final battle scenes when they're up in the bamboo forest. And this seems to get a lot of credit as one of the most amazing scenes. However, my favorite scene is early on in the film when they're in the Forbidden City. And where there's this really cool semi-realistic scene where Michelle Yeoh's character is trying to grab Zhang Ziyi's character down to stop her from flying away. The final thing I want to mention about this film is the score. So the score was composed by a guy called Tan Dun, a famous composer in China, and he even recruited one of the most famous musicians in China, a classical musician called Yo-Yo Ma, and Yo-Yo Ma performed some of the orchestral parts of the score. My favorite part, though, is the kind of drum beat that really drives the action, especially in the fight scenes. So when you're hearing the fight scenes, you kind of hear the... I think it helps to build the excitement. They also use Chinese traditional instruments, so this also added to the historical Chinese feel of the film. So overall, I highly recommend Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think it's definitely a huge addition to the wuxia genre. It's definitely the best well-known in the Western world, and hopefully it doesn't get forgotten about. I think it's definitely one of the best action films I've ever seen. It is, however, not the be-all end-all of the wuxia genre. You could check out films like Hero, House of Flying Daggers, and Come Drink With Me if you want to check out more. So that's the end of my review of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. If you've enjoyed this and you want to hear more about foreign language films and TV shows, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this kind of stuff in the future. Hopefully it'll begin to look a bit more like a proper YouTuber as well. Maybe I'll get some better lighting and a better setup too. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm Jack Taylor, and goodbye.